Americans are very patriotic.
Oh, but
So yes,
you guys
as a
are.
European, when I first arrived, I was so surprised by how many American flags there were in the
So
streets.
beautiful.
Like, it's not really a thing in France. Like, people don't fly French flags in their front lawn. It's seen as being a bit weird, but
Sorry, but I agree with that so much. Look, I'm not American, but every time I react to American culture and I see patriotic movements, people flying the flag, people being so proud about the national anthem, my friends, that almost gets me emotional. So please never change that. And about the flag, can we all agree? It's one of the most beautiful flags in the world. If you agree with me, you have to leave me a like, or at least leave a like for America, because it's an amazing country. 10 American stereotypes I believed before visiting the USA. My friends, I'm super excited for this one. I'm coming to America this year, so I really wonder what those are. But before I go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much. Is the best way to show support. Now, if you can subscribe, well, in that case, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Link for the original video in my description, and let's play it.
I'm French, and like many Europeans, I had a bunch of preconceived ideas about the US before I actually visited, and I have to admit that some were totally ridiculous, but some others actually turned out to be true. So let's explore.
Okay, oh boy, actually I'm already in love with this video because I thought the video would be about stereotypes that are not true in America. But in this case, some will be actually a thing there. Oh man, I'm so curious. Let's play it.
Explore that together, starting with the first stereotype I had, which is that Americans are very patriotic.
Oh, but
so yes,
you guys
as a
are.
European, when I first arrived, I was so surprised by how many American flags there were in the
So
streets.
beautiful.
Like, it's not really a thing in France. Like, people don't fly French flags in their front lawn. It's seen as being a bit weird. But on my side, as someone who loves cultures, I'm really into it. You know, I really like the 4th of July decor, especially in the suburbs of Chicago where my boyfriend is from. It is so cool and really gets me in a patriotic mood, even though I'm not from the US. But it's
Sorry, but I agree with that so much. Look, I'm not American, but every time I react to American culture and I see patriotic movements, people flying the flag, people being so proud about the national anthem, my friends, that almost gets me emotional. So please never change that, because it's one of the things that makes me to love the USA. And about the flag, can we all agree? It's one of the most beautiful flags in the world. If you agree with me, you have to leave me a like, or at least leave a like for America, because it's an amazing country.
And it's from, it is so cool and really gets me in a patriotic mood, even though I'm not.
Sorry. Actually, I was thinking, what about me going to America around the time of 4th of July? Because I did not pick the date yet. Maybe, right? I feel if I want to feel patriotic, that's the best date.
Not from the US. But it's not only that. Like, people really take the national anthem very seriously, like standing up at sports events. And Bobby told me that growing up, he had to say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day at school. So it definitely.
Sorry, my friends, but this pledge of pledge of allegiance, is this how you say it? You guys also did this, all of you, or certain states don't have to do this. Sorry for such ignorant question, but it's something that appears from time to time in videos, but I still don't understand that well.
Definitely feels overall like a more patriotic experience than what I've lived personally. But I just want to say that it's also very polarized. Like, Americans themselves have very strong opinions about their country, and I've met a lot of people who are very apologetic for being American, and this is maybe
what, being an apologetic to being an American? Oh my friends, what the hell? Sorry, that to me makes no sense. I mean, sorry. Apologetic to being an American? One of the best countries in the world, one of the countries that end up changing the world the most. I mean, you should be proud, sorry.
Country. And I've met a lot of people who are very apologetic for being American. And this is maybe linked to the other stereotypes we're going to talk about in a bit. But I feel it's such a shame that these people feel the need to do that, because I feel the US is a really great place to be from. And, you know,
I mean, of course, America is such an amazing place, my friends. Look, saying that America is a bad place is the same as saying that Portuguese food is bad. It's not, it's amazing, my friends. Same goes for American food, actually. My friends, look, I'm going to repeat myself. This is a patriotic video at this point. If you love America, leave a like, because America amazing place, and you should be proud. I know you guys are proud, but for the ones that are not proud, we have to compensate. If that makes sense. Damn, this is crazy. Thinking America is a bad place is really crazy. Yeah, okay, sorry.
people feel the need to do that because I feel the US is a really great place to be from. And you know, obviously, like in every country, there are good things and bad things. But in my personal opinion, and I've lived and worked in the US, I've been to 15 states, but I've also lived in 8 different countries. I can say that the US is a really great place to be from. But another funny side of this stereotype is sometimes some people have a tendency to see the US as the center of the world. Like, for example, you know,
This one could be a bit true in the sense that America is the number one country in the world. So, because of that, there is some type of ego that most Americans have. But I honestly understand that. I think it's normal. But this one, I would say it could be true.
thinking you can pay in dollars in Paris. And obviously do not do that. If someone accepts your dollars in Paris, they don't have good intentions and you're probably being overcharged. And in general, you should always read up about a country before visiting. Things are gonna be very different from where you're from. And obviously not everyone is like that. If you're on this channel, you're probably really interested in cultures and you're trying your best to adapt, as I can see with all the really cool comments you're leaving on my videos. But this leads me to my second stereotype, which is Americans are supposedly bad at geography.
Americans are bad at geography. I don't know. Maybe this stereotype comes because Americans, they travel a lot inside of their own country and less outside. At least that's what people say online. I'm not sure if this is true or not. But I don't think Americans are bad at geography as much as people tend to make. You know, I disagree with this one.
By now, we've all seen these YouTube videos of people asking Americans to name a country, any country, just name a country. And obviously,
honestly, this type of videos, they go viral like crazy. And the people that believe in them, most of the time Europeans, they are also a bit dumb. Because if you are on the street, no matter the nationality, no matter the country, and if someone stops you, you will froze in very basic questions. And of course, when they do this type of video, they probably end up interviewing 100 people and they pick 2 or 3, you know, or maybe 4 or maybe 5 that end up struggling with basic questions. But I guarantee you can do this type of videos in my country, in France, in Spain, no matter the country you pick in Europe, in Asia, does not matter. So I mean, they are fun to watch, but they are a bit of clickbait and they don't represent Americans at all.
obviously, these videos play into the stereotypes. They're also cherry-picked. And I'm sure that if you shove the camera on my face and yelled at me, I will forget all the countries. But since it's a light video and it's about my personal opinion on these stereotypes, I have to tell you about something weird that keeps happening to me in the US.
What?
And, you know, maybe you have an opinion on that. So, I'm from France and I grew up right there. And my dad is from Spain, the country in Europe that's right there. And, you know, so
Sorry, my friends, sorry.
there. And my dad is from Spain, the country.
Look at that beautiful rectangle right there. Yeah, Spain is also a cool country, but oh man, isn't this a beautiful country? Oh, wow.
In Europe, that's right there. And, you know, sometimes this comes up in conversations, like, for example, if we're talking about our origins with people. And in the US, for whatever reason, people misunderstand or don't remember correctly and think I'm from Mexico. And, you know, I love Mexico. I think it's a great country. I spent a lot of time there during my travel. I've actually...
From Mexico? Oh boy, that's wild, actually. But I mean, it would make more sense to believe that he's maybe from France. You know, since we are talking about borders in America, since they speak French in certain regions, right? From Mexico is wild. Wait, you guys are going to think that I'm from Russia there. Right? Oh, man.
Love Mexico. I think it's a great country. I spent a lot of time there during my travels. I've actually lived there for 6 months, but I am not from Mexico. I'm literally from the other side of the pond. Like, it's a 10-hour flight to go from Paris to Mexico. And this has led to a very awkward situation, especially at work, with people going out of their way to be nice and introducing me as Mexican to actual Mexican people who are like, oh, cool, which part of Mexico are you from? And I'm like, France. And you know, the people who forget where I'm from are very educated.
Sorry, that sounds so funny, actually. What? Oh man, Yeah, you guys, a lot of people will, because of my accent, that Russian guy, 100% that will happen. I don't care.
France. And the people who forget where I'm from are very educated, they're trying to be nice, and I've never understood why this happens so often, and why it's always Mexico and not, for example, Canada, where they also speak French. But I feel at this point it's not even a question of geography, but more of listening when people tell you where they're from. And also, I do feel that it's normal that some Americans don't know about every single European country. Like, the US is such a big country, there are many states already to remember, so I don't expect people to know about the exact place I'm from, because I personally don't know every single place in the US either. Also, in Europe, where countries are very tiny and close to each other, like France is roughly the size of Texas, but there's also, for example, Monaco, which is the size of Central Park in New York. And Europeans also generalize the US too. Like, one of my European pet peeves.
Wait, sorry, my friends. Monaco is the size of the Central Park in you. Oh my God, yeah, America, so massive.
And Europeans also generalize the US too. Like, one of my European pet peeves is when people have very strong opinions about the US for no reason, even though they've never been there.
Envy most of the time, real talk.
And this is because US politics are very discussed by international media. Also, American movies and American companies are everywhere, but they are not representative of the American culture as a whole. Like, you can't have an educated point of view about the whole American culture just by watching Home Alone, for example. And this stereotype is also linked to the next one, which is that Americans don't travel. And
I don't think this is true because, I mean, if you travel inside of the US, I look at each state as a country at the end of the day. I mean, take a look at Texas. It's bigger than France, so it's bigger, is what, 7 times bigger than my country. So if I travel the entire Texas, it's basically me going to 3 or 4 countries in Europe. It's actually insane.
I have to say that this one is entirely not true. You've probably heard the myth that only 10% of Americans have passports. Well, apparently this has not been true for over 20 years.
Really?
And apparently 3/4 of Americans have visited at least another country. So Americans are going abroad. They're just visiting fewer countries than us Europeans. Roughly a quarter of Americans have been to 5 or more countries, when in France that number is 54%. And in smaller European countries like the Netherlands, it's 83%. And that fully makes sense because there's 2 factors at play in international travel, which are basically how much money you have, because flights and hotels are expensive, but also how close you are to another country. Like, if we take
Yeah, I mean, I assume a lot of Americans, the 2 countries they end up visiting the most will be Canada and maybe Mexico, right? The country end up visiting the most is Spain, because it's just right there, my friends. You guys may not see it, but it's right there. So this, I mean, not a big deal.
Take the example of the Netherlands. You could technically bike to Belgium. It's super
I mean, come on, look at that. That's crazy.
close. Also, in the US, flights tend to be pretty expensive because you're pretty far away from other countries. Like, your only neighbors are Canada and Mexico. And the US is so massive that a lot of people prefer to travel domestically. Like, there's already so much to do in the US. Like, the nature is very diverse, there's a lot of really cool regional cultures, and also things are very, very far away from each other. Like, for example, Barcelona in Spain is a very common weekend trip from where I grew up in France. It's roughly a 4-hour drive. In New York City, where I used to live, the same amount of driving only got me to Italy in New York State, which is in a very beautiful region and has really nice nature, really cool
Wait, town of Italy? Really? Oh, that's cool.
hikes, but obviously it's not
Holy
another country. And another stereotype I had before going to the US is that Americans don't speak any other languages than English. And this one is not entirely true. Like, the US is a country that has been built on immigration, and around 1 in 5
Yeah, I feel like Spanish is really big in America. Portuguese, I know it's not, but I feel like Spanish is really, really big. I would assume it's the second most common language.
Americans speaks a different language at home. But even if you're
Wait,
not
sorry. About 1 in 5. Okay, that's impressive.
And around 1 in 5 Americans speaks a different language at home. Right, so this next one is a bit weird, but another thing I've been warned of before going to the US is
What?
medical expenses. Like, I've literally been told, be careful to not break a leg in the US. Otherwise,
Honestly, this is one of the things that concerns me the most because I still did not figure out that well how the system works in America. I know at this point I need insurance, but I'm not sure if my insurance will work everywhere or not. This is where I'm struggling a bit, my friends. I'm so excited to visit America. But this topic is a bit complex, at least for me. You know, of course, for you guys it's easy, I assume. But for me, it's looking from outside. Because we all see crazy stories about people that spend 100K, and I don't have that type of money, so I have to be very careful with this when I visit America.
like, I've literally been told, be careful to not break a leg in the US. Otherwise, you'll be in debt. And given current events, it seems like a really big issue. But luckily for me, I haven't broken anything. And the only medical emergency I had while living in the US was an ear infection. And obviously, ear infections are not life-threatening. But if you've ever had one, it hurts so bad that you're ready to do anything to make it stop. And on my side, I went to an urgent care facility where I saw a doctor and it costed me $300. Luckily, my health insurance was
$300. Honestly, $300 is a lot of money to me, my friends. But I know I have to. But I assume that's price is without insurance, right? I think is one of the things that people have to be careful when they go to America because you don't want to go into crazy debt.
and then I was reimbursed. But in the time it took for me to get reimbursed, I was very scared that my claim was going to be denied or that I would not be reimbursed in full. And to be honest, $300 is a lot of money for an ear infection. If we compare that to my most recent ear infection, and I have sensitive ears, okay, which was in Paris, I had to pay zero out of pocket. Like, they didn't even ask to see my credit card. They only needed my health insurance card.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's also zero.
If I had to pay out of pocket, it would have been 25 euros, which is around $26. So it is very, very cheap to see a doctor in France. And it's pretty easy to get an appointment for everyday stuff. Obviously, our system is not perfect, but I feel it's a pretty good one. I've never had any kind of medical stress in France.
And here I have to say this: the French system, I believe, is one of the best in the world. It is actually much better than the one we have here in my country. Even though I think it's okay, it's not okay. It's good. I know this is a big topic in America, the healthcare system or not. My friends, I love America, so I also don't know how I feel about this in the sense that since I grew up with free healthcare, for me that's kind of like a basic thing. But I understand different country, different rules, different perspectives. So I would have to think a bit more about this topic to have a strong opinion. I like it the way I have it here, but I understand America is different.
Obviously, in the US, this stereotype varies quite a lot depending on your health insurance plan because it depends of your employer. And I've really seen both ends of the spectrum, like from people who didn't have dental and couldn't afford to get dental care, which really sucks. Like, it's so painful. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I've seen like stuff that's not very necessary being reimbursed. Like, recently I was talking with my friends about this clinic that gives you a Chanel goodie bag after you give birth. So yeah, not very necessary.
What?
I'd rather not pay $300 if I have an ear infection. But yeah, overall, I feel very grateful that I've always been super healthy. My family and all my loved ones have been very healthy. So I haven't tested extensively any medical system. And if you have and you want to share your experience, feel free to leave me a comment. Another thing I believe about the US is that people sue each other for no reason. All right, I know this one.
This one I don't know, my friends. I feel like this could be true. I remember seeing news about someone suing McDonald's for such stupid stuff, and I think they won. Again, maybe I'm talking some BS right now, but yeah, this stereotype I tend to believe it's a bit true.
One is a bit of a weird one, but from a European perspective, it seems like the US is like the wild west of lawsuits. Like just driving on the highway, you see a bunch of like personal injury lawyers. You have to sign release forms all the time, and you hear about those crazy viral lawsuits. And here I can't talk about that without talking about what happened to this poor old lady that had to be hospitalized for 8 days after spilling McDonald's coffee on her lap. Like I've seen the picture, and what happened to this lady was really horrible. She had third-degree burns, and she decided to sue McDonald's to pay for her medical bills. That's just what she was asking for. The title of the New York Times documentary
Which just the medical bills. That's it. I mean, that's fair.
a watch about it sums it best. Burned by hot coffee, then by the media. Like she was painted by the news as just a dumb lawsuit that was fully useless. ABC News even called it the poster child of excessive lawsuits. And from a European perspective, that's just what I heard. I actually didn't know what happened to this lady and obviously hadn't seen the pictures, which are awful. So I feel this stereotypes come
Wait, so maybe the lady actually had a point and the media end up creating a false narrative? That's crazy.
from extreme cases that were very publicized, and in reality things are a bit more nuanced. Like I feel suing for medical bills is totally understandable, and seriously the very few people I know that have been involved in a lawsuit, it has been for a very good reason. So I don't think suing people qualifies as an American hobby. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I'm not a lawyer, I've never been involved in any lawsuits, and I intend for things to stay this way. Alright, so this is supposed to be a light video, and recently in my recommended, I've had a lot of videos of Italians trying Olive Garden. And you know, as you could expect, their
By the way, I love this channel.
reactions are not very good. They are very scared to go there. They don't really like the food. And overall, they find the experience very bland and inauthentic. And that's often how Europeans tend to perceive American food. And I have to admit that I did believe that before I visited the US, but luckily I was proven entirely wrong. The US is a
Oh my god, this one. Yeah, I mean, maybe people believe this, but American food is so good. It's crazy. I mean, American food is not fast food. It's basically when you go to the southern region, when you go to the north, and you go to places that have a lot of history, that have people cooking with passion. I got a bit too excited there. But American food is crazy good, my friends.
a massive country with a very rich food culture that varies from state to state, and I have to say that this stereotype is absolutely untrue. I feel this bad image stems from the fact that our only contact with American food in Europe are the big fast food chains. Like, for example, I used to have a terrible image of fried chicken because I only knew about KFC and it didn't look really good to me. Like, I thought this was pure junk food, and I
The thing is, I like KFC.
was not really willing to try it. I usually
So if things are even better in America, that's perfect. Look, I love Burger King. Yeah, I'm a fat boy, but I really like Burger King. I think it's a tremendous place for burgers. McDonald's. Since I end up knowing Burger King, I started not liking McDonald's that much, even though I think it's good. But Burger King is my favorite.
don't really like big chains because I prefer to go to small shops. But a few years ago, my American boyfriend actually brought me to Atlanta, Georgia to go to one of the best fried chicken restaurants in the world. And there we actually met the chef who told us about the recipe that hasn't changed since 1945. And like they really put so much love and care into it, like they marinate the chicken overnight. It's super juicy and tasty, and they serve it with really delicious sides. And since then,
I would pay so much money to eat that.
I've been such a big fan of fried chicken and southern food in general. I even love chicken and waffles, which is another food that would send Europeans into a coma, but it's so good. And I feel that in general, the US does comfort food so well. And there are so many
It's
small
amazing.
businesses that are not owned by big corporations. And I feel you obviously shouldn't rule out American food just because you've seen McDonald's or KFC. Like, it's really my pet peeve when Europeans say the food is not tasty in the US, because not only there's really good American food, but there's also food from all over the world. Like, for example, in New York, I've tried real authentic Malaysian food, Indian food, Indonesian food, and all of these foods, they're made very authentically. Like, they keep the recipes the same as at home, and they often import some spices or products. Stereotype number 8 is that people love to work.
This one, I believe it's true. Americans are, and I think this is a great compliment to American people, by the way. You guys work a lot, and that's why the country is so amazing. I mean,
And obviously I'm French, so it comes to no
America, it's America because of Americans, you know.
surprise to you that people have a lot of vacation time in France, but that's one image I had of Americans. And I do feel this one is kind of true. Like there is this always on mentality where people are always thinking about business or maybe building side hustles and always trying to make things happen. And obviously some
No, yeah, this one I totally believe it's true. Americans are very competitive. Not everyone, of course, but overall Americans are very competitive. You guys want to have a nice house, nice cars, and of course that you have to work for that. I mean, there is no other way.
sometimes it's a necessity. Like people who have several jobs, they don't always do that because they love it. Like they need to pay rent. But there is more of a focus in the US in having a side hustle, monetizing your passions. Whereas in France, I know a lot of people, for example, who are very good at a skill like art, but just do that in private and will never think of monetizing anything. And this also ties up with stereotype number 9, which is that Americans are very optimistic and outgoing. And that's
They
a
are.
thing that I had to adapt to in the US because it's not in my culture, but now I really love small talk. I love how positive people are, and I've already talked about it in the other video I made about the US, but that's something that makes daily life a bit nicer.
By the way, I saw that video. It was tremendous. By the way, show the by the way again, show all the support to this young lady because I think this is an amazing video.
And honestly, I feel like this outgoing energy is reflected everywhere, which leads me to my next stereotype that everything is big in the US. This one, coming from a European perspective, is entirely true. The highways are massive, the cars are very big, the portion sizes are massive, although now I'm used to it and I really like it. And one thing that's for sure massive in the US is the distances. The US is
Okay, that's a bit bad. But apart from that, my friends, bigger car, bigger house, bigger portions. Yeah, I mean that's really bad, right, my friends? Never change.
such a big country, and
Take this
recently
way,
I
America.
crossed it from New York to SF by train, and it took me 3 days. I also made a video about my thoughts, and I think
Okay. Oh, it's not
we
any.
should watch it next. I'll see you there.
Okay, my friends, thank you so much for watching this with me. The last one is so funny because you know what? Crazy people sometimes pick that argument to criticize America. Oh, things are too big there. Dude, there is no too much, you know, what? God bless America, my friends. Never change because it's a tremendous, tremendous country. That said, thank you so much for watching this with me. Really means a lot. You guys end up staying until the end. See you guys in the next one.